there are many descriptions of demons, angels, witches, and strange gods from all over the ancient world. Some of these are evil, and some are good. This film will be looking at some of these ancient gods, and seeing what the Bible and other sources have to say about these entities.
called you, right? As soon as I couldn't pull it out myself, I called you, John.
Got the tire down. We'll be good.
Constantine. John Constantine. Asshole. Let's sing. Time. What the hell?
I need a mirror. Now, at least 3 feet high. Move! Oh, 马上进！
This is Kramer. Chaz Kramer, asshole. What? Oh, this is Kramer. Chaz Kramer, asshole.
Chaz! What? Move the car. What? Move the damn car! There, cars move.
Lift it up a little bit. Tie that end up. Hands over the top. Close your eyes. And whatever happens, don't look.
Show yourself. Smile pretty, big prick. Free boss.
Pull it!
Demonic possession is the control over a human by a malevolent supernatural being or evil spirit. Descriptions of demonic possessions often include erased memories or personalities, convulsions, fits and fainting as if one were dying. Other descriptions include access to hidden knowledge gnosis and foreign languages glossolalia, drastic changes in vocal intonation and facial structure, the sudden appearance of injuries, scratches, bite marks or lesions, and superhuman strength. Unlike in channeling or other forms of possession, the subject has no control over the possessing entity and so it will persist until forced to leave the victim, usually through a form of exorcism. Many cultures and religions contain some concept of demonic possession, but the details vary considerably. The oldest references to demonic possession are from the Sumerians, who believed that all diseases of the body and mind were caused by sickness demons called Jiddim or Giddim. The priests who practiced exorcisms in these nations were called a shipu or sorcerer as opposed to an asu or physician who applied bandages and salves. Many cuneiform tablets contain prayers to certain gods asking for protection from demons, while others ask the gods to expel the demons that have invaded their bodies. Shamanic cultures also believe in demon possession and shamans perform exorcisms. In these cultures, diseases are often attributed to the presence of a vengeful spirit or loosely termed demon in the body of the patient. These spirits are more often the specters of animals or people wronged by the bearer, the exorcism rites usually consisting of respectful offerings or sacrificial offerings. Demonic possession is not recognized as a psychiatric or medical diagnosis by either the DSM-IV or the ICD-10. There are many psychological ailments commonly misunderstood as demonic possession, particularly dissociative identity disorder. In cases of dissociative identity disorder in which the alter personality is questioned as to its identity, 29% are reported to identify themselves as demons, but doctors see this as a mental disease called demonomania or demonopathy, a monomania in which the patient believes that he or she is possessed by one or more demons. The Bible clearly indicates that people can be possessed by demons but that the demons respond to Jesus' authority. In the synagogue there was a man possessed by a demon, an evil spirit. He cried out at the top of his voice, "Ha! What do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God. Be quiet." Jesus said sternly, "Come out of him." Then the demon threw the man down before them all and came out without injuring him. All the people were amazed and said to each other, "What is this teaching? With authority and power he gives orders to evil spirits and they come out." And the news about him spread throughout the surrounding area. Luke 4:33-35, it also indicates that demons can possess animals. When Jesus stepped ashore, he was met by a demon-possessed man from the town. For a long time this man had not worn clothes or lived in a house, but had lived in the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell at his feet, shouting at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, don't torture me." For Jesus had commanded the impure spirit to come out of the man. Many times it had seized him, and though he was chained hand and foot and kept under guard, he had broken his chains and had been driven by the demon into solitary places. Legion, he replied, because many demons had gone into him. And they begged Jesus repeatedly not to order them to go into the abyss. A large herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside. The demons begged Jesus to let them go into the pigs, and he gave them permission. When the demons came out of the man, they went into the pigs, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and was drowned. Luke 8:27-32.
You know what she did? Your canting daughter?
Following its commercial introduction by businessman Elijah Bond in the late 1890s, the Ouija board was regarded as a harmless parlor game unrelated to the occult until American spiritualist Pearl Curran popularized its use as a divining tool during World War I. Mainstream Christian religions and some occultists have associated use of the Ouija board with the threat of demonic possession, and some have cautioned their followers not to use Ouija boards.
You're right there. Give me 1 second. Cool. Alright. Let's give it a shot. So,
Ready, guys?
I'm ready.
Is there anyone here?
Besides us.
Let's switch spaces. You write down.
Alright. Monica, you got this. You got this, girl.
Yeah, girl.
Alright.
Watch out, Ouija board. We're coming for you. Okay. Is there anyone here with us? Are you?
No.
Are you touching?
Are you?
No.
That's crazy. I'm barely.
I barely have my hands on here at all. What?
Wow.
That is really moving now. Yes! Okay. What is your name?
Ooh. Wow.
What is the deal with these swirly things?
His name is 8.
C O Z O Z O.
Oh my.
Z. Oh, is your name Zoe?
That's so freaky. Oh my gosh.
What? No. Okay. Is your name Zozo?
Zozo the clown. That is so creepy. What the? Monica, what are you doing? Hey!
Monica!
What are you doing?
Oh my god, Monica! Monica, calm down!
Are you okay? Bathard! Oh my god! Bathard! Bathard! What's wrong? Get rid of it! Bathard! Are you okay? Oh my god, you guys! Bathard! Okay.
Like a little bird.
Bathard! How do you get rid of it? Oh, that's Celine. Bathard!
One of the first mentions of the automatic writing method used in the Ouija board is found in China around 1100 BC, in historical documents of the Song dynasty. The method was known as Fuji planchette writing. The use of planchette writing as a means of ostensibly contacting the dead in the spirit world continued, and, albeit under special rituals and supervisions, was a central practice of the Quanzhen school, until it was forbidden by the Qing dynasty. Several entire scriptures of the Daozang are supposedly works of automatic planchette writing. Similar methods of mediumistic spirit writing have been widely practiced in ancient India, Greece, Rome and medieval Europe. Most religious criticism of the Ouija board has come from Christians, primarily evangelicals in the USA. In 2001, Ouija boards were burned in Alamogordo, New Mexico, by fundamentalist groups alongside Harry Potter books as symbols of witchcraft. Religious criticism has also expressed beliefs that the Ouija board reveals information which should only be on God's hands, and thus it is a tool of Satan. A spokesperson for Human Life International described the boards as a portal to talk to spirits and called for Hasbro to be prohibited from marketing them. In the murder trial of Joshua Tucker, his mother insisted that he had carried out the murders while possessed by the devil who found him when he was using a Ouija board. Bishops in Micronesia called for the boards to be banned and warned congregations that they were talking to demons and devils when using the boards. Christian views on magic vary widely across denominational and individual barriers, and are often influenced by biblical, theological, and historical considerations. Some Christians actively condemn any form of magic as satanic, while others simply dismiss it as superstition. Conversely, some branches of esoteric Christianity actively engage in magical practices. There are several references to witchcraft in the Bible that strongly condemn such practices. For example, Deuteronomy 18:11-12 condemns anyone who casts spells, or who is a medium or spiritist, or who consults the dead. Anyone who does these things is detestable to the Lord, and because of these detestable practices the Lord your God will drive out those nations before you. Exodus 22:18 states, "Do not allow a sorceress to live." Martin Luther shared some of the views about witchcraft that were common in his time. On August 25, 1538, there was much discussion about witches and sorceresses who poisoning chicken eggs in the nests, or poisoning milk and butter. Dr. Luther said, "One should show no mercy to these women. I would burn them myself, for we read in the law that the priests were the ones to begin the stoning of criminals." In his book Commentaries de Maleficiis, meaning comments on witchcraft, Peter Bensfeld claims the signs of a witch are the diabolical mark. Usually, this was a mole or a birthmark. If no such mark was visible, the examiner would claim to have found an invisible mark. Diabolical pact. This was an alleged pact with Satan to perform evil acts in return for rewards. Denouncement by another witch. This was common, since the accused could often avoid execution by naming accomplices. Relationship with other convicted witch/witches. Blasphemy. Participation in Sabbaths. to cause harm that could only be done by means of sorcery, possession of elements necessary for the practice of black magic, to have one or more witches in the family, to be afraid during the interrogatories, not to cry under torment supposedly by means of the devil's aid, to have had sexual relationships with a demon. This picture shows John Dee and Edward Kelly evoking a spirit. John Dee was a noted English mathematician, astronomer, astrologer, occultist, navigator, imperialist, and consultant to Queen Elizabeth I. He devoted much of his life to the study of alchemy, divination, and hermetic philosophy. Dee straddled the worlds of science and magic just as they were becoming distinguishable. One of the most learned men of his age, he had been invited to lecture on advanced algebra at the University of Paris while still in his early 20s. Dee was an ardent promoter of mathematics and a respected astronomer, as well as a leading expert in navigation, having trained many of those who would conduct England's voyages of discovery. By the early 1580s, Dee was growing dissatisfied with his progress in learning the secrets of nature and with his own lack of influence and recognition. He began to turn towards the supernatural as a means to acquire knowledge. Specifically, he sought to contact angels through the use of a scryer or crystal gazer, who would act as an intermediary between Dee and the angels. The British Museum holds several items once owned by Dee and associated with the spiritual conferences. Dee's speculum or mirror, an obsidian Aztec cult object in the shape of a hand mirror, brought to Europe in the late 1520s, which was once owned by Horace Walpole. He used this to see into the spirit world. The small wax seals used to support the legs of Dee's table of practice, the table at which the scrying was performed. The large, elaborately decorated wax seal of God, used to support the show stone, the crystal ball used for scrying. A gold amulet engraved with a representation of one of Kelly's visions. A crystal globe, 6 centimeters in diameter. This item remained unnoticed for many years in the mineral collection. Possibly the one owned by Dee, but the provenance of this object is less certain than that of the others. religion and mythology, occultism and folklore. A demon from the Greek word daimon, meaning anthropomorphic, powerful spirit or divine power, is a supernatural being described as something that is not human and in ordinary usage malevolent. In ancient Near Eastern religions as well as in the derived Abrahamic traditions, including ancient and medieval Christian demonology, a demon is considered an unclean spirit which may cause demonic possession, to be addressed with an act of exorcism. In Western occultism and Renaissance magic, which grew out of an amalgamation of Greco-Roman magic, Jewish demonology and Christian tradition, a demon is a spiritual entity that may be conjured and controlled. The existence of demons is an important concept in many modern religions and occultist traditions. In some present-day cultures, demons are still feared in popular superstition, largely due to their alleged power to possess living creatures. In the contemporary Western occultist tradition, perhaps epitomized by the work of Aleister Crowley, a demon, such as Corzin, the demon of the abyss, is a useful metaphor for certain inner psychological processes, inner demons, though some may also regard it as an objectively real phenomena. Some scholars believe that large portions of the demonology of Judaism, a key influence on Christianity and Islam, originated in Zoroastrianism, and were transferred to Judaism during the Persian era. In Christianity, demon has a number of meanings, all related to the idea of a spirit that inhabited a place, or that accompanied a person. Whether such a demon was benevolent or malevolent, the Greek word meant something different from the later medieval notions of demon, and scholars debate the time in which first-century usage by Jews and Christians in its original Greek sense became transformed to the later medieval sense. Some denominations asserting Christian faith also include, exclusively or otherwise, fallen angels as de facto demons. This definition also covers the sons of God described in Genesis who abandoned their posts in heaven to mate with human women on earth before the deluge. Starting with Beelzebub, meaning literally Lord of the Flies, with numerous archaic variants, he is a Semitic deity that was worshipped in the Philistine city of Ekron. In later Christian and biblical sources he appears as a demon and the name of one of the 7 princes of hell. Beelzebub is commonly described as placed high in hell's hierarchy. He was of the order of cherubim. According to the stories of the 16th century occultists, Johann Weyer, Beelzebub led a successful revolt against Satan, and is the chief lieutenant of Lucifer, the emperor of hell, and presides over the Order of the Fly. Similarly, the 17th century exorcist, Sebastian Michaelis, in his admirable History 1612, placed Beelzebub among the 3 most prominent fallen angels, the other 2 being Lucifer and Leviathan, whereas 2 18th century works identified an unholy trinity consisting of Beelzebub, Lucifer, and Astaroth. Sebastian Michaelis associated Beelzebub with the deadly sin of pride. However, according to Peter Bensfeld, Beelzebub was the demon of gluttony, one of the other 7 deadly sins, whereas Francis Barrett asserted that Beelzebub was the prince of false gods. In any event, Beelzebub was frequently named as an object of supplication by confessed witches. Within religious circles, the accusation of demon possession has been used as both an insult and an attempt to categorize unexplained behavior. Down through history, Beelzebub has been held responsible for many cases of demon possession, such as that of Sister Madeleine de Demondolx de la Palade, Aix en Provence 1611, whose relationship with Father Jean-Baptiste Gaufridi led not only to countless traumatic events at the hands of her inquisitors but also to the torture and execution of that bewitcher of young nuns, Gaufridi himself. Beelzebub was also imagined to be sowing his influence in Salem, Massachusetts. His name came up repeatedly during the Salem witch trials, the last large-scale public expression of witch hysteria in North America or Europe, and afterwards Reverend Cotton Mather wrote a pamphlet entitled Of Beelzebub and His Plot. In the aftermath of the 1634 Loudun possessions, as the priest Urbain Grandier was burnt at the stake, onlookers saw a fly appear and alleged it was Beelzebub fetching his soul. In demonology, according to some authors, Aegir's is a duke, ruling the eastern zone of hell, and being served by 31 legions of demons. He can make runaways come back, and those who run stand still. He can also cause earthquakes and teach his languages, finding pleasure and teaching immoral expressions. He also has the power to destroy dignities, both temporal and supernatural. He is depicted as a pale old man riding a crocodile and with a hawk on his fist. Aegir's is a demon from the Gosha, the lesser key of Solomon the King. Clavicula Salomonis Regis is a 1904 translation of the text by Samuel Mathers. It is essentially a manual that purports to give instructions for summoning 72 different spirits. Reginald Scott wrote of him, Aegir's, he cometh up mildly in the lichens of a fair old man, riding upon a crocodile, and carrying a hawk on his fist. He teacheth presently all manner of tunes, he fetcheth back all such as run away, and maketh them run that stand still. He overthroweth all dignities supernatural and temporal, he maketh earthquakes, and is of the order of virtus, having under his regiment 31 legions. In ancient Egyptian religion, Ammit, meaning devourer or bone-eater, was a female demon with a body that was part lion, hippopotamus and crocodile, the three largest man-eating animals known to ancient Egyptians. A funerary deity, her titles included Devourer of the Dead, Eater of Hearts, and Great of Death. Ammit was not worshipped, and was never regarded as a goddess. Instead, she embodied all that the Egyptians feared, threatening to bind them to eternal restlessness if they did not follow the principle of Mat. In the Sumerian mythological poem Lagail, Asog is a monstrous demon. He is described as being so hideous that his presence makes fish boil alive in the rivers. He was said to be accompanied into battle by an army of rock demon offspring born of his union with the mountains themselves. He was defeated by the god Ninurta. Asog, whose name means demon that causes sickness, was often associated with a serpent or dragon mythological archetype by historians. Astaroth, in demonology, is a crown prince of hell. He is a male figure named after the Canaanite goddess Ashtoreth. The name Astaroth was ultimately derived from that of 2nd millennium BC Phoenician goddess Astarte, an equivalent of the Babylonian Ishtar, and the earlier Sumerian Inanna. She is mentioned in the Hebrew Bible in the forms Ashtoreth and Ashtaroth. He is referred to in the Lesser Key of Solomon as a very powerful demon. In art, in the dictionary Infernal, Astaroth is depicted as a nude man with feathered wings, wearing a crown, holding a serpent in one hand, and riding a beast with dragon-like wings and a serpent-like tail. According to Sebastian Michaelis, he is a demon of the first hierarchy, who seduces by means of laziness, vanity, and rationalized philosophies. According to Francis Barrett, Astaroth is the prince of accusers and inquisitors. According to some demonologists of the 16th century, August is the month during which this demon's attacks against man are stronger. The Gothic demon Astaroth has appeared many times in modern popular culture. Baal is one of the 7 princes of hell. He is mentioned widely in the Old Testament as the primary pagan idol of the Phoenicians, often associated with the heathen goddess Ashtaroth. Baal is a Christian demon. According to Christian demonology, Baal was ranked as the first and principal king in hell, ruling over the east. According to some authors, Baal is a duke, with 66 legions of demons under his command. The term Baal is used in various ways in the Old Testament, with the usual meaning of master, or owner. It came to sometimes mean the local pagan god of a particular people, and at the same time all of the idols of the land. It is also found in several places in the plural Baalin, or Baals. There were many variations, such as the sun god, the god of fertility, and Beelzebub, or the lord of flies. Baal was worshipped in many ancient Middle Eastern communities, especially among Canaanites, for whom he was a fertility deity. In the mythology of Canaan, he was locked in combat with Mo, the god of death and sterility. Depending on the outcome of their struggles, 7-year cycles of fertility or famine would ensue. Baal was also king of gods, having seized the kingship from the sea god, Yam. Baal worship was popular in Egypt from the later New Kingdom to its end 1400 to 1075 BC. The Arameans used the Babylonian pronunciation Bel. Bel became the Greek Balos, identified with Zeus. The Old Testament often refers to a specific local Baal or multiple Baalim. Moloch, meaning king, is the name of an ancient Semitic god, in particular a god of the Phoenicians, and the name of a particular kind of child sacrifice associated with Moloch. Moloch was historically affiliated with cultures throughout the Middle East, including the Ammonite, Hebrew, Canaanite, Phoenician and related cultures in North Africa and the Levant. In modern English usage, Moloch can refer derivatively to any person or thing which demands or requires costly sacrifices. In John Milton's Paradise Lost, Moloch is one of the greatest warriors of the fallen angels. First Moloch, horrid king besmeared with blood of human sacrifice, and parents' tears, though, for the noise of drums and timbrels loud, their children's cries unheard that passed through fire to his grim idol. Him the Ammonite worshipped in Rabbah and her watery plain Indiana, Argob and in Bashan, to the stream of utmost Arnon. Nor content with such audacious neighborhood, the wisest heart of Solomon he led by fraud to build his temple right against the temple of God on that opprobrious hill, and made his grove the pleasant valley of Hinnom, Tophet thence and black Gehenna called, the type of hell. Quoted from John Milton's Paradise Lost. In Christian tradition, Belphegor is said to be the chief demon of the deadly sin sloth, at least according to Peter Bensfield's classification of demons known as the demon of discoveries and of ingenious inventions. Belphegor seduces people by suggesting to them ingenious inventions that will make them rich and become greedy and selfish. According to some 16th century demonologists, his power is stronger in April. Bishop and witch hunter Peter Bensfeld believed that Belphegor tempts by means of laziness. As a demon, he is described in Kabbalistic writings as the disputer, an enemy of the sixth Sephiroth beauty. The name Belphegor is a corruption of the biblical name Baal Peor, the god of the Moabites. Bur is a spirit that appears in the 16th century grimoire, Pseudemonarchia, Daemonum and its derivatives, where he is described as a great president of hell, having 50 legions of demons under his command. He appears when the sun is in Sagittarius. Bur teaches natural and moral philosophy, logic, and the virtues of all herbs and plants. He also heals all infirmities, especially of men, and gives good familiars. In Johann Wehr's Pseudemonarchia Daemonum 1583, he quotes, "Bur is a great president, and is seen in this sign. He absolutely teacheth philosophy moral and natural, and also logic, and the virtue of herbs. He giveth the best familiars. He can heal all diseases, specially of men, and reigneth over 50 legions." Unquote.
God, I hate this part. twins.
What did you say?
She killed herself.
What?
And she's dead for it.
is an evil figure in Iranian mythology, evident in ancient Iranian folklore as Azi Dahaka, the name by which he also appears in the texts of the Avesta. In Middle Persian he is called Dahag or Bever Asp, the latter meaning he who has 10,000 horses. Azi is the Avestan word for serpent or dragon. Azi Dahaka is the most significant and long-lasting of the Azis of the Avesta, the earliest religious texts of Zoroastrianism. He is described as a monster with 3 mouths, 6 eyes, and 3 heads, cunning, strong and demonic. The Middle Persian sources also prophesy that at the end of the world, Dahag will at last burst his bonds and ravage the world, consuming 1 in 3 humans and livestock.
Someone has cursed you. He's the Lamia, the most feared of all demons. For the first 3 days, the spirit torments its victims. After that, it will come to take you.
Take me where?
To burn in hell for eternity.
In 2009, the movie Drag Me to Hell, directed by Sam Raimi. A lone officer who evicts an old woman from her home finds herself the recipient of a supernatural curse. Desperate, she turns to a seer to try and save her soul, while evil forces work to push her to a breaking point. The demon in this movie was Lamia. In ancient Greek mythology, Lamia was a beautiful queen of Libya who became a child-eating demon. Aristophanes claimed her name derived from the Greek word for gullet, referring to her habit of devouring children. Later traditions referred to many Lamiae. These were folkloric monsters similar to vampires and succubi that seduced young men and then fed on their blood. According to the Greek historian Diodorus Siculus, Lamia was born the beautiful daughter of King Belus of Egypt, making her the granddaughter of Poseidon and Lybe. Upon her father's death she became queen of one of his territories, Libya. However, while visiting Delphi, Pausanias remarks that Lamia was the daughter of Poseidon. He also states that Lamia and Zeus were the parents of Hierophile, a noted sibyl. Diodorus goes on to relate that Lamia had an affair with Zeus and bore him children. When Hera, Zeus's wife, discovered the affair, she became enraged and killed the children. Driven insane with grief, Lamia began devouring other children, and, according to Diodorus, her face became hideously distorted from her grisly deeds. Zeus then gave her the ability to remove her eyes. In Diodorus the purpose of this is unclear, but other versions state this came with the gift of prophecy. Zeus did this to appease Lamia in her grief over the loss of her children. Later stories state that Lamia was cursed with the inability to close her eyes so that she would always obsess over the image of her dead children. Some accounts, such as that of Horace, say that Hera forced Lamia to devour her own children. Myths variously describe Lamia's monstrous, occasionally serpentine appearance as a result of either Hera's wrath, the pain of grief, the madness that drove her to murder, or in some rare versions a natural result of being Hecate's daughter.
Here occurred the frightening and shocking history of Prince Dracula. and the woman he loved.
I have crossed oceans of time to find you.
Yeah. Dracul.
There's a sinister, darker side to him. I find irresistible. I have never met any man with such a passion for life. He is unlike any man. What are you?
Vampires do exist. This one we fight, this one we face, can take on many forms. He is both young and old. He can appear as mist, as vapor, as the fog, and he can vanish at will.
My love.
The power of his evil desire has no end.
You've got to go to him, and you've got to love him.
She is a willing recruit, a devoted disciple. She is the devil's concubine.
Vampires are mythological or folkloric beings who subsist by feeding on the life essence, generally in the form of blood, of living creatures, regardless of whether they're undead or a living person. Although vampiric entities have been recorded in many cultures, and in spite of speculation by literary historian Brian Frost that the belief in vampires and blood-sucking demons is as old as man himself, and may go back to prehistoric times, the term vampire was not popularized until the early 18th century, after an influx of vampire superstition into Western Europe from areas where vampire legends were frequent, such as the Balkans and Eastern Europe, although local variants were also known by different names, such as Verkolakas in Greece and Strigoi in Romania. This increased level of vampire superstition in Europe led to mass hysteria, and in some cases resulted in corpses actually being staked and people being accused of vampirism. Prehistoric stone monuments called dolmens have been found over the graves of the dead in northwest Europe. Anthropologists speculate they have been placed over graves to keep vampires from rising. According to several legends, if someone was bitten by a suspected vampire, he or she should drink the ashes of a burned vampire. To prevent an attack, a person should make bread with the blood of vampire and eat it. One of the most famous true vampires was Countess Elizabeth Bathory (1560–1614), who was accused of biting the flesh of girls while torturing them and bathing in their blood to retain her youthful beauty. In Japanese Buddhism, Jaikuninki are the spirits of greedy, selfish or impious individuals who are cursed after death to seek out and eat human corpses. Jaikuninki are Preta of the 26th class in Japanese Buddhism. They are also sometimes considered a form of Rakshasa or Gaki or hungry ghosts. In the latter case, they may be freed from their deplorable existence through remembrances and offerings. In Chaldean mythology, the seven evil deities were known as Shitu, meaning storm demons. They were represented in winged bull form, derived from the colossal bulls used as protective genii of royal palaces. The name Shed assumed also the meaning of a propitious genius in Babylonian magic literature. Hebrew demons were workers of harm. To them were ascribed the various diseases, particularly such as affect the brain and the inner parts. Hence there was a fear of Shabriri the dazzling glare, the demon of blindness, who rests on uncovered water at night and strikes those with blindness who drink of it. Also mentioned were the spirit of catalepsy and the spirit of headache, the demon of epilepsy, and the spirit of nightmare. In Buddhism, Mara is the demon who tempted Gautama Buddha, by trying to seduce him with a vision of beautiful women who, in various legends, are often said to be Mara's daughters. In Buddhist cosmology, Mara personifies unskillfulness, the death of the spiritual life. He is a tempter, distracting humans from practicing the spiritual life by making the mundane alluring or the negative seem positive. The early Buddhists, however, rather than seeing Mara as a demonic, virtually all-powerful lord of evil, regarded him as more of a nuisance. Many episodes concerning his interactions with the Buddha have a decidedly humorous air to them. Early Buddhism acknowledged both a literal and psychological interpretation of Mara. Mara is described both as an entity having a literal existence, just as the various deities of the Vedic pantheon are shown existing around the Buddha, and also is described as a primarily psychological force and metaphor for various processes of doubt and temptation that obstruct spiritual practice. Buddha-defying Mara is a common pose of Buddha sculptures. The Buddha is shown with his left hand in his lap, palm facing upwards and his right hand on his right knee. The fingers of his right hand touch the earth, to call the earth as his witness for defying Mara and achieving enlightenment. This posture is also referred to as the earth touching. Yama, also known as Yamaja in India and Nepal, Shinjan Tibet, Yan Liuwang or simply Yan in China, Yamaladaiwang in South Korea and Enma-Dio in Japan, is the Lord of Death, first recorded in the Vedas. In art, he is depicted with green or red skin, red clothes, and riding a water buffalo. He holds a loop of rope in his left hand with which he pulls the soul from the corpse. He is the son of Surya and twin brother of Yami, or Yamuna, traditionally the first human pair in the Vedas. He was also worshipped as a son of Vivasvat and Saranya. He is one of the guardians of the directions and represents the south. He reports to Lord Shiva the Destroyer. The seven gods of fortune, commonly referred to in English as the seven lucky gods, refer to the seven gods of good fortune in Japanese mythology and folklore. They are often the subject of Nitsu carvings and other representations. Each has a traditional attribute, Hatai, the fat and happy god of abundance and good health. Jurjin, god of longevity. Fukurokuju, god of happiness, wealth and longevity. Bishamantan, god of warriors. Benzaten, goddess of knowledge, art and beauty, especially music. Dayakakupan, god of wealth, commerce and trade. Ibisu and Daikoku are often paired and represented as carvings or masks on the walls of small retail shops. Ibisu, god of fishers or merchant, often depicted carrying a sea bream.